January 8, 2026. The South China Sea USS Abraham Lincoln is conducting live fire exercises as part of routine Pacific operations. Close-in weapon systems hammer targets out of the sky. Aircraft launch, recover, and relaunch in flawless rhythm. Flight deck crews move with practiced precision. Everything about this moment says normal, standard, predictable. Then the secure line rings on the bridge. New orders, new mission. The carrier is ordered to leave the Pacific immediately and sprint to the Persian Gulf. Not next week, not tomorrow. Now, somewhere inside the Pentagon, planners have just realized they are running out of time. The U.S. Navy operates 11 aircraft carriers, the largest carrier fleet in human history. But when the crisis erupts, most of them are suddenly irrelevant. One carrier is positioned nearly 3,000 miles north in Japan, too far away to respond before events unfold. Another has just completed maintenance. Fresh, fully capable, but untested under pressure. The Navy's most advanced carrier is tied down in a strategic standoff in the Atlantic. So the Pentagon makes a decision that seems counterintuitive. They pull a carrier out of the Pacific, the most contested theater on Earth, and send it racing toward the Middle East. This is not a symbolic move. It is a calculated risk, and it comes down to two things: Iran and the F-35C. Because in January 2026, the Middle East is not merely tense, it is primed for ignition. To understand why Lincoln was chosen, you have to look past the hull number. USS Abraham Lincoln, CVN 725th ship of the Nimitz class, carries a motto stamped into her steel: shall not perish. For more than 3 decades, that phrase has not been ceremonial. It has been operational truth. In 2020, Lincoln remained at sea for 295 consecutive days. No port visits, no extended maintenance, just sustained operations. For comparison, most modern carriers deploy for 6 months. China's carriers require frequent resupply. Britain plans rotations measured in weeks and months. Lincoln stayed on station for nearly 10 months straight while maintaining full combat readiness. That isn't endurance. That is a demonstration of what an experienced carrier and crew can do when failure is not an option. But the ship sailing in 2026 is not the same vessel launched in 1989, between 2013 and 2017. The U.S. Navy invested $3 billion into a complete refueling and complex overhaul. For 4 years, the carrier sat in dry dock. The hull was cut open, nuclear reactors were removed, dated wiring was stripped away, miles of piping replaced. Then the ship was rebuilt from the inside out. New reactor cores, modern power systems, fiber optic networks where copper once ran, advanced sensors that did not exist when the ship was designed. Most critically, Lincoln became the first Nimitz-class carrier specifically optimized for 5th-generation air warfare and the F-35C, reinforced jet blast deflectors, hardened networks, classified mission spaces embedded into the hull itself. This was not a renovation, it was a transformation. The ship matters, but the crew matters more. 18 months before this crisis, Lincoln was operating in the Red Sea. Iranian-backed forces launched real anti-ship ballistic missiles at commercial shipping. These were not drills, not simulations. Real missiles aimed at real ships. Lincoln's strike group intercepted them, multiple times, under live combat conditions. That experience matters. Because when the order comes to sprint from the Pacific to the Persian Gulf, this crew is not guessing how combat feels. They already know exactly what incoming fire looks like on a radar screen. Powered by 2 nuclear reactors, Lincoln has effectively unlimited range. The carrier covers roughly 4,500 nautical miles in just over a week without slowing for fuel. But speed is only the delivery system. The real weapon is waiting on the flight deck. Carrier Air Wing 9 fields roughly 75 aircraft. At its core are F-35C Lightning II stealth fighters. And in 2026, those jets change the entire strategic equation. Iran does not fear traditional air power. It fears day one strikes. Attacks that arrive before air defenses can react, adapt, or recover. Iran understands stealth. That is why it invested heavily in low-frequency early warning radars, designed to detect stealth aircraft at long range. On paper, this sounds like a solution, but detection is not targeting. To shoot down an aircraft, Iran must hand off that detection to high-precision fire control radars. That handoff is the weakest link in the chain. The moment it happens, electronic attack aircraft intervene. Communication links are jammed. Fire control radars are flooded with false targets. Guidance systems lose coherence. Meanwhile, stealth fighters remain passive, using enemy emissions to locate the radar itself. The hunter becomes the prey. Once the radar network is degraded, strike aircraft move in. This is not about invisibility. It is about collapsing the enemy's ability to fight as a system. Overseeing this entire operation are airborne command platforms managing hundreds of contacts simultaneously. Fighters, strike aircraft, defensive patrols, and support assets are coordinated in real time. This is not chaos. It is orchestration. Air superiority is when you control the sky. Air dominance is when the enemy cannot meaningfully contest it at all. But none of this matters if the carrier itself is destroyed. That is why Lincoln never sails alone. 3 guided missile destroyers form a layered defensive bubble around the carrier. Together they carry hundreds of interceptors, designed to defeat ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, aircraft, and fast attack boats. All of it is networked. One ship's radar can guide another ship's missile. Iran's doctrine relies on saturation, overwhelming defenses, by launching everything at once. But the math is unforgiving. Most missiles are intercepted. The few that get through expose every launch site involved. Every site that fires becomes a target. It is not deterrence through threat. It is deterrence through inevitability. As Lincoln transits some of the most monitored waterways on Earth, Iranian vessels shadow the strike group. Cameras record aircraft launches, radars track escort patterns, intelligence is gathered and transmitted inland. And the U.S. Navy allows it. Because deterrence is not about hiding power. It is about displaying it so clearly that escalation becomes irrational. Iran sees the carrier, sees the escorts, sees the air wing, does the math. The result is silence. The Strait of Hormuz is only 21 miles wide, yet nearly a fifth of the world's oil supply passes through it every day. For decades, Iran has prepared to close it in the event of war. Missiles, mines, fast attack boats. Layered defenses designed to impose unacceptable costs. But the arrival of Abraham Lincoln changes the calculus entirely. The carrier strike group shifts the balance from denial to control. Iran retains the ability to disrupt shipping, but not the ability to survive the response. Any attempt to close the strait would expose critical assets. Once exposed, they would be neutralized. The cost would outweigh the gain. So why Lincoln? Why this ship? Why this crew? Because when global stability hangs by a thread, you don't send a ship that might be ready. You send the veteran. A carrier rebuilt for 5th-generation warfare. A crew that has already intercepted hostile missiles. Strike group engineered to defeat modern area denial strategies. Lincoln wasn't just available. She was built for this moment. Her motto still holds. Shall not perish. Not the ship. Not global trade. Not freedom of navigation. That is why the line holds. And that is why they sent Abraham Lincoln.